everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Empowerment Series video podcast with me, Farisha. And today I am so delighted and honored because I have a special guest with me. It's Najah on all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Hi, Najah. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. Thank you very much. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. And how's things down under?
It's pretty good. We're in lockdown at the moment, but I always tell people from Malaysia who ask me how I am that my worst day is probably not even your best day. So I'm pretty thankful and blessed because I know the situation over there is pretty terrible. So I'm okay. Thank you.
So Najah, I have been following you online. I've been following your LinkedIn and your update, and I'm really impressed on, your sharing because you share a lot on, fashion sustainability, about environment. So maybe you can share more a bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this. So we've naturally never met before, and I think we got to know each other through our mutual connections. And I know that you have been actively doing this women empowerment podcast. And so I'm just happy to sort of pass on my knowledge if I can help with the audience. But my name is Najah, and I was born in the USA, but I call myself Malaysian Australian. Basically, I've spent half of my life in Malaysia and half of my life in Australia. I'm in Australia now and I'm an Australian citizen. But I actually am an environmental engineer by training. So that is actually my background. I've been doing this for maybe about nearly 19 years now, 18 years. Recently, I actually got out of my corporate job because I decided to make a lot of impact in terms of imparting my knowledge. I'd better off doing it for small to medium enterprises who maybe want to get into sustainability but don't know how, and they probably don't have the funds to sort of go out on their own to hire a big firm. So this is what I currently do now. So I have a sustainability consultancy and I operate worldwide. I've actually also been very interested in fashion all my life, fashion and style. I don't call myself a fashionable person, but I would say that I understand processes, manufacturing, business improvement, environment management systems, quality management systems, as well as compliance and also sustainability best practice. So I feel like someone like me would definitely be of value in the fashion supply chain. So some of the things that I consult on nowadays is also on, I guess, the fashion supply chain and how we as a community can collectively lighten the industry's footprint. So that's something that I do now.
Okay, wonderful. And question number 2, what is the most difficult challenges that you have faced in your life, whether it's your career or personal, and how do you overcome it? How do you get back up? How do you rise?
Thank you for the question. I'll probably give you 2 answers on this sort of question. The first one is probably when I first graduated as an environmental engineer. I started my first job, and back in the day, a lot of people, when they asked me, "Oh, who are you? Are you the new, the person here?" And I would say, "I'm the new environmental officer," or something like that. And they would always say, "Oh, you're the tree hugger." And when I first started my career, I mean, nothing wrong with being tree huggers, but I felt that was a little bit more demeaning to say, I actually studied an engineering degree for 4 or 5 years. And for you to actually dismiss me because I'm a woman engineer as a tree hugger, because I don't see them sort of talk about that to sort of male engineers. It was a little bit, wasn't very nice. So that was probably one of the things that I had to struggle with in the first few years of my career. But nowadays, people don't do that anymore. But I think what I did then was to just own my sort of background and own my professionalism. And I would never sort of really take it personally. And it wasn't really a reflection of myself, but really a reflection of those people. And just like do a good job. So I let my work speak for myself, I guess. That's probably one example. The second example is probably most recently when I left a job in Perth in 2017. I was there for 5 years. I had a very, very difficult manager. And he was not only a difficult manager, he was actually a bad person. Like sometimes you get you can probably deal with an incompetent manager, because, they can learn, to become a better manager, or, anyone can do any personal development or professional development at work. But this person was actually quite a nasty sort of person. And so, even his personal life got entangled with his business life. And then he was also, got tangled in my personal life. So he was just a bad person to manage in my life. It was quite a testing time in terms of my career. I love my job though, because I had such a lovely time with my coworkers. Everyone loved my work and everyone thought I was succeeding and I was doing a good job, except for this person, because he was quite nasty. Like, he just was jealous of me and was trying to bring me down and all sorts of different things. And it's funnily enough, he didn't even apply for that job. He got that job from, his connection. So at the end of the day, that happened for about 3 to 4 years. And I remember seeing all my Facebook posts, because I was so unhappy in that job that I was working long hours and it wasn't really, I didn't get promoted and things like that. But at the end of the day, at one point in time, I had to think about handling that situation differently. So I could probably share some mechanisms here, but I don't want to make it too long. But at the end of the day, sometimes you leave, people say you leave managers, you don't leave organizations or your colleagues. A bad manager really is a reflection of your sort of allegiance to the organization. And unfortunately, if that person or sort of upper management supports that behavior from that manager, there's not much you can do about it. And for your own sort of mental health, you might have to just leave. And that's what I did. Karma, I believe in karma in terms of sort of showing that person what a horrible thing that he did to me. I won't go into the details, but I think a year after I left, he got fired anyway. And then when he moved to his next job, I think something terrible happened to him. Not like terrible, but he actually got fired from his other job because he was, going on like this terrible person, like behaving horribly to other people around him. And I think he got his dues. So yeah, so I think that was probably one of the more challenging times I've had. And that was only, 7 to 5 years ago.
And I must say, Najah, you are a very, very, very brave woman. And I think for us, we have to be kind. We have to be kind to each other. We have to have empathy. We have to have humility. And for me, I definitely agree with you, because to be a good leader, you have to lead by example, right? And for example, we have to be kind to each other, to be kind to one another. And for me, I don't believe in hate, because life is too short to hate, because we live in this world temporary and anything can be taken back by God. So anytime can be taken back by God, because this is temporary, because we live in this world as a temporary, human being, temporary life. So for me, I always believe in respecting each other. And when we have problems, we talk, we discuss. And that is how you, solve the problem and try to find, the root cause and how to, problem solve. And that is the correct way. So for me, hearing your story, I think, the only antidote is to be kind to each other. That is the most important thing that we need to have. And also as leaders, it's really important for leaders to have empathy, because empathy is really important. You have to understand your staff. You have to understand your employees. You have to understand how is it like if you are in their shoes. Yeah. So even though that they are a CEO or managing director or a senior person in that organization, try to imagine yourself if you are in your employee situation and how would you feel? And for me, I think the asset of leadership, the characteristic of good leadership is empathy. Empathy is really important, because when you have empathy, that is when you have good leadership. strong leadership from your team, from your employees. So that is a very interesting story, Najah. And I have to applaud to you that because you overcome it and you're brave enough to share it, because I think that other people who are watching this can relate as well. And this is really good, because this is the things that we go through in our daily life. Yeah. So what we can do is we learn from it. Yeah, lesson learned. And it is also good for us as well as young leaders, so for us to take the lesson, and whenever we become leaders someday, we can lead, we can lead people, and we can lead our teams effectively, because we know how it's like, and we know the feeling, and we know that we want to be good leaders to people. So that is really important for the organization, for the company. Yeah. Okay. And moving on to the next question. This is a very interesting one, and it is, what is your say on woman empowerment? What does woman empowerment means to you in your own words?
Thank you. It's interesting, women empowerment. A lot of people sort of, have their own sort of definitions about what they think. But to me, I obviously have like a STEM background. STEM is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and now I think there's another M, medicine. So, I've been a practicing engineer for a long time. But for me, a woman who is empowered is a woman who is acutely aware of what she wants. And what I mean by that is that someone, it doesn't even have to be women, but like someone who is empowered, a woman who is empowered exactly knows what they want and what kind of objectives they're trying to achieve. I think that is the number one rule to sort of being empowered, because I think if you know what you're heading towards, then you actually know that there is a runway for you. And then everything that you do is in accordance to that runway. So you'll never deviate. And knowing your goals and objectives as well helps to, I guess, maybe give yourself a bit more, what do I call it? A bit more sort of insight into whether you're achieving them as well, because then you know what success looks like. Now, this is an interesting question, because my answer is someone who is acutely aware of what they want. The thing is, a lot of people don't know that yet. And I see a lot of sort of people my age, even older or younger people, who are not really sure what they want yet. And then getting there actually is a combination of experiences, lessons learned, journeys, and sort of taking in sort of, formal but informal training. But I would comment on that a little bit more when you ask me a question about giving some advice. But what I might add in terms of a woman who is empowered is someone who is also acutely aware, a woman who is acutely aware that she can't do everything alone. So for me, being empowered doesn't mean that you have to do everything on your own. So being acutely aware that what are your weaknesses, what are your strengths, what are your shortcomings, so that you can seek help in the right places is super crucial in being someone who is very much empowered, because empowerment is not something that you do yourself. I think to stay humble and to stay compassionate, you need to understand where your shortcomings are. No one's perfect, obviously, but also knowing what your strengths are, because you can draw on them to then sort of define what your sort of priorities can be. So then you don't waste time, you don't waste productivity, and you work as efficient as you can be as a human being. So yeah, so to me, a woman who's empowered is someone who is acutely aware of what they want, what success looks like for them, and who knows that they can't do everything alone.
Yes, and I agree with you, Najah, because we can't do everything alone. We can't work in silos. It's all about teamwork. It's all about working with each other. So it's also about, working alongside with men as well, men and women. So I
Yes.
guess another definition of woman empowerment is for women to support each other, to lift each other up. And for me, there is no room for hate. There is no room for jealousy because life is too short. Life is too short. So it's really important for us to hold each other hand and support each other. Yeah. So we have to support and empower each other. So if you have a friend who have a small business, support her. So I have a friend who have a small business and I support her business as well. And that is how you support each other, especially right now during the pandemic. So a lot of people are, selling things online or selling food, or you have friends who are doing home bakery, they're doing cakes, and they can provide delivery, they can deliver the cakes to your home. Support your friend's small business, and this is how you can start supporting each other, and this is how we grow, and that is how we support and empower each other. We support women and we support people around us.
Yeah.
Okay, and the next question would be, who are the most inspiring women leaders that you admire? Someone that you look up to and say, wow, she inspired me.
That's a
It can
good
be
question.
more than one.
Sure. I'd probably say three people at the moment. So the first and foremost person who inspires me is probably my grandma. My grandmother is very close to me. I was born in America with my newly wedded parents at the time, and I got shipped to Malaysia, and then my grandma took care of me when I was little. And so I actually call her mom. So she's kind of like my mom. She, even though has her own sort of prejudices in life and not a very sort of harmonious relationship with her late husband, she has always been an independent woman. And so I think that is quality that I admire the most about her. She's also willing to try new things. She's 87 now, and she's going to be 88, and she's my only grandmother left.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. She's my dad's mom, and she's in KL right now. And she, she is pretty much the person who inspired me to be the person that I am today. So the upbringing that I received from her really left an imprint in my development in the early days. Sorry, talking about it gets me a bit teary because I miss her. And it's
okay. I feel you. I miss my grandma too, and I miss my dad very much. Yeah. So it's really important because these are, our parents and our family. They are the one who shaped us and make us becoming the person that who we are today. So this is really important. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think I always quote her. So nowadays, a lot of things that I do, I reference her in terms of some of the things she was always the person who would she taught me how to cook for my family. She was always the person who would save things and upcycle stuff, and I think that's why I study environmental engineering. I was always very much eco-conscious from a young age. Talking about fashion now, I mean, I get a lot of my inspiration from her. A lot of my sort of conversations and webinars to corporations now actually insert some quotes from my grandmother to kind of like leave her legacy that way. We can learn a lot from that generation. But most of all, she is pretty much moving with the times as well. And I think that is something that I admire with her as well. I mean, I can talk to her on WhatsApp on video now, and she can send me voice messages for an 87-year-old woman. That's pretty amazing. So that's probably my first answer. And the second one is, again, someone very close to me, which is my mother. She bore 7 children, and we're all still around. I'm the first child in our family, and she has never stopped working from the day that she actually left Malaysia to study in the States. And she is just a hardworking woman, and she's gone through 2 divorces now, and now she's like in her 50s and ready to mingle. But on a more serious note, I also admire our ex-Prime Minister of Australia. Her name is Julia Gillard, and she was our first female Prime Minister in Australia. And I feel like being a politician is hard enough, but being a woman politician is harder.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's all I could say. But yeah, you get the gist.
Yes, amazing story. And we just hope that the pandemic will be over soon. And hopefully, once everyone is vaccinated, once the situation is okay, and once the borders are open, and hopefully you can come back to Malaysia and then you can meet up with your grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
so hopefully, once the situation is okay and the borders are open and everyone has been vaccinated. So we really, really hope that with the current COVID situation that this will be gone soon because everyone is missing, back then, back when before COVID, where we can go to events, where we can socialize, we can mingle, we can go to a forum, events, and what else? All the things that we can do outdoors. So, yeah, we're just praying for the situation to be over soon, hopefully, and the borders are open, and then you can come back to Malaysia and meet with your grandmother. And I think that is a really, really, really touching story because, our family members, especially those who are close to us, our mom, our grandmother, they're the one who shaped our character. And they're the one who raised us up from the moment that we are a baby and children until we are an adult right now. So I guess, it's relatable to everyone because family comes first. Family is number one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So we have come to the last question, Najah. So the last question is, what is your advice to the Gen Z, to the millennial, to the youth of today?
Wow, that's a fully loaded question. I think I'll probably just talk from personal experience in terms of, overall, I guess, life, aspiration. For me, something that's always worked for me is to listen to my own gut. Obviously, not everyone is, I guess, gifted that way. A lot of people are under a lot of pressure from their family, their friends to do something. And, it's very hard for somebody in that situation to just go with what they feel is right for them. But, I feel like I've seen people now who are in their second or third careers and they've done it because they're like, well, my first two careers wasn't my choice. It's something that I was pressured to do. It's something that I didn't like anyway. So that sort of thing. So at the end of the day, I think you always have to kind of listen to your gut and really do what is the fire in you saying. And I've been very lucky. I've always known what I wanted to do. I've never had to go through the rigmarole of fighting other people, arguing or debating about what I wanted. But I have seen these sorts of stories, and if I could, provide some wise words, I would always say, listen to your gut, first and foremost, because it's usually always right, and it will pay dividends in the future. The other thing I would say is don't be afraid to speak up. When I say speak up, it just means lend your voice to discussion, lend your voice to a forum, lend your voice to your family in terms of your opinions about things. Because what we need in today's conversation is really balanced conversation around all sorts of different things. It could be politics, it could be climate change, it could be, human rights, it could be bad stuff, right? And so I think even the everyday things, I think don't be afraid to speak up, don't be afraid to just say what you think at the time. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're right or you're wrong. I think it's really, really important to have a lot of diverse voices in conversations right now, especially in between generations. I mean, coming from a STEM background again, especially engineering, I feel like obviously, as you know now, we don't have a lot of women leaders in sort of board level or C-level executives. I think women make great leaders because, the decisions that we make in organizations or on the higher levels are usually very inclusive. Women are inclusive beings. So for example, when we make decisions, we always think about other people's feelings or what this other person might think about, or have we actually extended the scope of this discussion to include everybody? That's inherently a women, I think, a very much a feminine or women quality. And I think it's very important as women that we make decisions with men in the room, because I think we bring so much more sort of diverse decision-making capabilities in boardrooms. I always say to people, I'm an engineer, right? Like I always say to people that if we had more women project managers managing, construction projects and all sorts of different things, we will definitely be on budget, on time, and definitely, on plan, because we're just more organized creatures. But basically, something else that I wanted to mention is that sometimes, you have to also, in moments of strife, for example, in moments of uncertainty, or in moments of challenge, I would say that whether in your career, like what I did in that job that I had a challenging manager, or whether in personal situation, I think it's important to let go of things you cannot control. It is very easy for young people now to be very passionate about, a lot of things. You might be passionate about an issue in China, or like human rights abuses, or like, disposable fashion and all sorts of different things. But I feel like your energy is only finite, right? And you need to understand where you want to sort of channel that energy into. So only do the things, first and foremost, that are applicable and relevant to you to achieve your goals. Because only when you achieve your own goals can you help others. Only when you are mentally stable, only when you are financially stable, only when you are on the right track, that you can then extend your help and assist others. I'm not saying you can't help others now, but I mean, that is probably an optimum level that I would say that is important to understand. Everyone goes through that in different timelines. So it's important to let go of things that you cannot control. We as an individual cannot change everything around us, but by doing it step by step, bit by bit, towards empowering ourselves and sort of working within our own little bubbles and creating impact that way, I think that is a much more effective and efficient way to create change and ripples everywhere else. The other thing I might say is aim high. So what I see with women especially is that they always undersell themselves. So for example, you might go for a job, right? You want to apply for a job, and this job says you must have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to apply for this job, qualification in this, experience in that, whatever. What I see women do is they always undersell themselves. So they say, I take 3 out of 5, so I'm not going to apply for it. Whereas a man would take 3 out of 5 and they're like, I got 3 out of 5, that's majority, I'm going to apply for it. And so I think the mindset is slightly a bit different. We are more humble than we give ourselves credit for. And I don't want to say that behave like a man, but I feel like we need to always be conscious that we are not underselling ourselves. So be confident, go for that job, go for that interview, ask this person out on a date, whatever. Because that's the only way that you can actually push yourself and actually see whether on the other side people reciprocate, the kind of qualities that you're projecting out to the world. One of the other things I wanted to say is also, this is the last one, is trust the kindness in strangers. So when I said before, an empowered woman, is acutely aware that you can't do everything yourself. I feel like sometimes, this is a lot of the conversations of how young people, even people my peers and my age, like sometimes you don't necessarily need to confide in people that you think are the people who are closest to you, like, maybe your obvious circle of friends or obvious relative members, because they might not be that person who is reliable in that sense. Like as human beings, we are very social people. Like I might play netball with a bunch of people, they're a different kind. I'm friends with engineers, they're a different kind, and then I'm friends with like people in fashion, and then they're a different breed, but we all bring sort of different sort of input into sort of our overall well-being into each other's lives. And so I think trusting the kindness of strangers is one thing I might say is helpful, has been helpful to me. I would say I'm fairly successful. Like I feel like I've hit my objectives, my targets and everything, but it doesn't mean that I didn't have low days. I started my own business 3 or 4 years ago. And at one point, I think I had only $1,700 in my bank account and I didn't know what to do. But what happened then was I trusted my gut and I didn't give up. And, I trusted the kindness in strangers. And, there is more bravery in asking for help than there is in not asking for help. And so I think trusting the kindness in strangers is an absolute must. And just remember this advice when, and it'll pop up when it's needed.
What an amazing story, Najah. And I agree with you, because women, we need to, step outside of our comfort zone. We need to be brave. We need to be bold, and we need to take risks. Take risks. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay to take risks, because sometimes, when they are too comfortable in their comfort zone, they don't want to take risks. They just sit there at the bubble, in their bubble, in the comfort zone. So what you're sharing to me just now is really, really true, because we need to be brave and we need to step outside of the comfort zone and also take risks, because if we don't take risks, we don't discover our true potential, right? Yeah, we don't discover what is the uniqueness of our talent, what we have, our special talent. So this is when you step outside of your comfort zone, and then you can discover your talents and your skills. You just have to be brave and taking risks. Taking risks is really important. And really, really inspired by your journey just now. Yeah, and we go through, different types of challenges in life. And because of the challenges, it is what shaped us and makes us stronger. So Najah, thank you so much for sharing today on Women Empowerment Series video podcast. And I hope for those of you who are watching this, I hope you are inspired, motivated by the sharing from Najah. Until then, stay safe, take care, bye.